Hey, check out my book series, Month of Miracles. They're monthly collections of daily affirmations to accelerate you along your spiritual path. Download volumes 1 through 3 for free at www.michaelmiracles.com/ebooks. Hi, it's Michael Miracles again from michaelmiracles.com. Back again to discuss more fine details of how to teach yoga and how to get a better experience out of your yoga practice. This video is about Vinyasa Yoga. What is it? Most people would quickly answer, oh, it's flow yoga. But let's take a closer look at what that actually means and how you can use this better to your advantage to help your students. My working definition of Vinyasa Yoga is specifically matching every movement to a particular breath. And while you're holding poses still, using the breathing to go deeper into experience of how your body's making the shape and the resulting sensations in the body as it's making the shape. So essentially, Vinyasa Yoga is a advancement, it's a technology in yoga where you're utilizing, you're maximizing, you're combining both what the physical practice, the asana can be, with the next step, pranayama, the breathing. When you match the two together precisely, it becomes way more powerful to help students find meditation. And the type of Vinyasa Yoga that I teach, I've come to call Unity Vinyasa. It's even more of an enhanced, more focused in on the potential of combining the breathing with the movements, combining the breathing with an awareness of the body. And how does that work? Well, it's using Oojai breath, the breath with sound, with not just linking the one student up with their breathing and how they're moving, but as much as possible, linking the entire class or much of the class up in the same breath, the same length of breath, and the same length of movement. So timing becomes a really important detail here. When everybody's moving and breathing at the same time, it becomes an even more powerful experience of meditation. That I've experienced as a student and as a teacher. When the whole class is moving and breathing together, it has advantages that I'd like to talk about now. Do you ever hear the phrase, safety in numbers? Let's rewire that saying. Of course you're safe in a yoga class, and you're not really battling against any outside threat. But when you're moving and breathing with a room full of people or just a few other people, it feels safe. When you're united with other people, when you're letting go of any other judgments you might have of them, critical thinking about the other person or critical judgmental thoughts about you in relation to the other people, when you're all focusing in on the same thing, it's a bonding experience. I've experienced plenty of classes where this isn't happening and I don't feel connected at all to the people around me. And that's a major thing I believe we're all looking for as human beings, connection with each other. And this is a surefire way to help your students experience that feeling. Also, I may have touched upon this on a different video. When you're focusing in and you're meditating and you're paying complete attention to what you're doing, when you're doing it, how you're doing it, and all the other people around you are focusing in on the exact same thing, you start to get this even more expansive feeling of meditation where it feels like you're part of something bigger than your individual self. A part of all of our minds, which causes the majority of our suffering in the guise of protecting us, is called our egos. And our egos runs a constant campaign, a constant public relations campaign for us to feel like the world is against us. I mean, that's extreme, but to feel like we're separate from everyone else and everything else. At the deepest levels of yoga, we're achieving this state where we lose all that. And when you lose that individual closed off self, you gain everything. It's a feeling of joy. It's a feeling of completion. And that is what this yoga is for. To reduce the suffering, maybe eliminate it altogether, and to have us realize, to feel, to experience our true natures. And you don't even have to believe this stuff. All I say is try it out and see if you can feel it. It can be very healing to be connected through breathing, moving and breathing with the whole class, to be doing real Vinyasa Yoga with other people. One thing that we're healing from is feelings of isolation, feelings of loneliness. This is a way to drop all that and to get an experience of something different, something more nurturing. Hey, while I'm at it, I'll throw another cliched phrase at you and try to have it support my point. Have you ever heard the phrase, united we stand, divided we fall? Well, building on all the other points I put out in this video, this one's kind of silly, but when you're focusing on your breath, in this case holding a pose, if you're doing a balancing pose like dancer pose or eagle pose or airplane pose, when you're thinking exactly about the mechanisms of the pose and how you're breathing in it, it is literally easier to stand and you limit the amount of times you fall. When you're focusing your attention on all the thoughts that can come up while you're trying to do a balancing pose, here's some popular ones. I suck at balancing poses. Why does this teacher keep doing balancing poses? I'm gonna fall. I don't wanna fall. When you're focusing in on those thoughts, you increase the likelihood that you're actually going to fall. And just a quick note about balancing poses, it's not a big deal if you fall out of them. When you're completely locked in with what you're doing, the pose and the breathing combined, and the other people in the room are as well. I've witnessed it as a student, and I'd say at this point thousands of times as a teacher. People fall out of the poses less. So why is Vinyasa Yoga important? And that goes back to the more common run-of-the-mill answer of what Vinyasa Yoga is. Flow yoga. Well, that term has just been used without thinking much about it, and there's a high crossover, but there can be slight nuances in this between, as I mentioned before, meditation and what's known as, this is a scientifically studied, a documented thing that does happen, flow state. You become so locked into what you're doing, you become so connected to what you're doing, you lose track of time, you lose track of any pain, you lose track of any suffering, any mental anguish, and you're just there doing it, loving it, finding joy, finding peace, finding connection. Other ways people have this experience is maybe their favorite hobby. Another way to really fast track it, but it's a lot more risky than doing a yoga class, is skydiving, bungee jumping, squirrel suit flying. All of that drops that part of the part of your mind that causes you to feel suffering, not connected, stressed out. It gets swept away, and you're just operating on your true form, on your true self. And yes, again, meditation, when you're practicing, when you're teaching true Vinyasa Yoga, you're meditating. Even as a teacher, if you're teaching the yoga, as the students are meditating, combining their breath with the movement, you're meditating on the students. So in that way, like, oh, Michael, how do you teach 4 classes a day? I'm meditating a lot of it. I'm in a flow state for a lot of it. It doesn't get tiring. It doesn't become stressful. It doesn't become a drag. It becomes a joy. Another one, a little bit more superficial, but when the class is experiencing true Vinyasa Yoga, Unity Vinyasa, synchronized Vinyasa, or just a higher form of meditative yoga triggered by this breathing and moving together, the poses actually get better. They look better. They look more complete, more beautiful. But the student's experience of the pose is a better experience. It's not something they're trying to do. Sure, you can effort, you can force, you can muscle if you have a lot of physical experience that plays into making those shapes. You can not be present at all. In ballet dancers, gymnasts, they can do these poses really well while struggling, while stressing, or while being completely not there. But for the rest of us, who this isn't something their body already knows how to do, when we're really locked in and meditating, the poses end up feeling great to do. They feel, even if they're challenging, there's just something about them. And the last thing, I may have mentioned this while talking about the flow state, but this is important as a teacher if you want students to come back. The class doesn't feel like hard work, even if it's really challenging. The class just flies by, and it seems like, oh, that wasn't so bad. Wow, I just did all those very challenging poses. An hour went by, 75 minutes went by. I think I could do that again. I think I could do that on a regular basis. And that's what we want to have our students thinking, feeling when they're walking out of the class. Double down on the breathing. Be so precise on how you're calling the breath in relation to calling the poses. Find that higher form of yoga through this technology that developed over the centuries known as Vinyasa. Hopefully you found this video useful. Check out more of these videos, hit the subscribe button. Check out my website, especially if you're in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. You can find my schedule there and take one of my classes. The light in me, the joy in me, the calmness in me, the peace in me, the unconditional love which is me, recognizes that sameness in all of us. Namaste. Hi, yoga friends. Michael Miracles here of michaelmiracles.com. Has yoga had an impact on your life? Are you looking to expand on that connection and maybe even share it with others? Or maybe you just really love what yoga's been doing for you and you want to go deeper. I've taught yoga full-time for over 8 years. I'm in RYT 500 with the Yoga Alliance, and I've taught over 1,000 classes. I've taken part in 10 trainings, tested all these methods, and figured out what works and what doesn't. All of this has culminated in Unity Vinyasa teacher training. Take control of your yoga practice today and start changing lives. Go to michaelmiracles.com/teacher training for more information.